Hi everyone, Walter Bowne, scholars, patriots, welcome. Rhetorical analysis of Patrick Henry's Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death. Now, the mission of every writer or speaker in persuasion is to persuade someone to change sides or to change their way of thinking. That doesn't happen too much anymore. Today's politician speaks to their base, and whoever gets the most people out wins. All right, but Patrick Henry, in a very different position, he's speaking to a relatively hostile audience. These are wealthy landowners, white men in Virginia, who have everything to lose if they wage war against the mighty empire of Britain, Great Britain. And so Patrick Henry has to deliver a message, and that message is one thing. We need to fight Great Britain. And it's really that we need to take arms and continue the fight that was started up in Lexington and Concord. He doesn't even mention that, which I'll talk about in the in-depth. So his message is clear. We need to have a war against Great Britain because we can either be two things. We can be slaves, we can be free. It perhaps is an either-or fallacy, but it works. If you go up to someone and say, would you rather be free or a slave? Guess what? Who's going to say, I'd rather be a slave? All right, would you rather make more money or less money? Yeah, who's going to say, yeah, give me less money? Okay, so his audience, then he has to tailor the message and call them gentlemen and call them sir and call them worthy, because he's not going to come right out and say what he wants in the very, very beginning. He says, very logically, different people can see this different situation and different sides. I, ethos, right, only know that I can use my lamp. All right, so it's clear in this message that I will either fight or die. Give me liberty or give me death. I cannot live as a slave, right? So that message is clear, right? And he's also tailoring it to an audience that had just spoken. They just spoke, right? And they were saying, no. We need to petition. We need to stop, the war from coming. We need to do whatever we can to keep our, to keep our wealth, right? It's sort of like in Julius Caesar, Brutus. He speaks, does a great job. Everyone's like, yeah, that guy's a good guy. Brutus is great. Mark Antony comes up, totally changes their direction. This is what Patrick Henry does. All right. Now we could look at what speeches were made for petitioning King George III to, have peace. But that's not what we remember. We remember, of course, Patrick Henry persuading the Virginia delegation to join their brothers in arms in Massachusetts to wage war. Right? So let's take a look at the different stages of classical oration that Patrick Henry uses. We'll look at the ethos, logos, and pathos. And we'll also look at other rhetorical devices like extended metaphor, antithesis, those types of things. Thank you so much. Hey there, patriots, scholars, Walter Bowne here. Okay, so let's go through Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death by Patrick Henry. First, let's talk about something that's called the Exordium, classical oration. Now, I don't expect you guys to know this for the AP test, but it is very interesting. So I'm going to give it to you, and then I'll give you a breakdown at the end of this lecture of how to structure the essay. So the Exordium is the beginning or introductory part, the discourse, right? He uses, of course, ethos. No man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism. Should I keep my opinions back at such a time? I should consider, I revere. All these things establish clear ethos, which is so important in this essay. He uses himself a lot. Give me liberty or give me death, right? So that's very, very important, right? He also, in the Exordium and throughout the speech, uses logos, right? But different men see the same different subject in different lights. Yeah, that makes sense. And opinions of a character very opposite theirs, I shall speak forth my sentiments freely. There's logic, all right? If you're against Patrick Henry, you'll agree with him on this. And that's the idea of the introduction. You don't want to come right out against somebody. You want them on your side, okay? And a lot of people give really bad speeches, and already your first sentence, your first paragraph, you already hate the person or hate their argument, right? And he does use pathos. For my part, I consider nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery, right? He uses pathos here throughout the essay about the chains, and we'll get to that, okay? Let's get to the second. We're still in the second paragraph. This is still the exordium, okay? We really don't know what his thesis is yet, or his message. And he says, Mr. President, it is natural to man to indulge in illusions of hope. Yeah, of course it's natural to man. We all have hope, right? But he calls it the illusions of hope. Oh, it's all going to work out. We'll be okay. COVID's going to go away just next week. You know, I'm hopeful, right? But that's natural, right? But he says this is an illusion, right? And then he says we are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth. Ooh, right? And listen to the song of the siren till she transforms us into beast. Ooh, all right. Now he's getting a little bit more like, okay, this hope is a song like the Lorelei or the mermaids or the sirens, like in, the Odyssey, that lure men to their deaths. All right. And then again, comes back to the ethos part. For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst of it, and to provide for it. Okay? And then, of course, pathos is talking about transforming us into beasts. I mean, I don't want to be transformed into a beast. Is this illusion of hope going to transform me? All right, now he gets to stage 2, right? The narrative. And he uses ethos here. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. Notice the repetition of the word lamp, right? Again, this is a very famous device that he uses. We all use our experience to form our opinions, right? I know of no way of judging the future, but by the past. Notice the antithesis, right? And by judging the past, he brings that word back again. I wish to know that there has been conduct in the British ministry for the last 10 years. Okay, now we're suddenly getting into the meat and potatoes of this. Okay, my beef is with Britain, with Great Britain. All right, and then he begins this narrative with a series of rhetorical questions. Look how many rhetorical questions he has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like 12 rhetorical questions in this paragraph, which, if you want to be fancy, you can call it hypophora, which is consisting of raising one or more questions and then proceeding to answer them. Now, most of the time he does it, and like, for instance, let me just pick one. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? No, that's antithesis, right? Armies and reconciliation and fleets and love? No, it's ridiculous. Why, if you know Hamilton, and King Richard, I will, send my ships and armies and kill you to remind you of my love. It's hilarious, right? But these are all questions that have an obvious answer, right? Why is Britain sending all these fleets here? Is there an enemy here? No, there's no enemy here, right? Should we try argument? We've tried that before. Have we anything new on the subject? No, we've exhausted everything. Right? So he's getting to his purpose, right? This is his theme. For my part, I consider it nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery. This is stage 3. All right, this is where he gets into, would you want to be slaves or you want to be free, right? Then we get to stage 4, which is his argument, right? This is where he needs to really come up with lots of examples to prove his point, right? We have supplicated, we have done everything we can to avert the storm. We don't want war. But the war is coming and we need to be prepared, right? So all of these things, we've done these things, and then he says, we wish to be free, we need to do these things. Like if, then, using a periodic sentence, and then he comes up here with what he really wants, boom, we must fight. There it is, okay? That's really what he wants. That's the argument, all right? Stage 5 is the summary, the comfort. Tomato, and he gives like a summary of what has been going on, about 3 million of people, armed combat, holy cause of liberty, and then he comes up with the refutation. Like, we've tried these things, it is in vain. Gentlemen may cry peace, peace, but there is no peace, right? It's like, okay, these are what people are saying, but how can there be peace? There's already war in Massachusetts. Our brethren are already in the field. Stage 7, he doesn't do. I don't see it. It's a digressio. Cicero does this a lot, but I don't see him digressing. He really sticks to the point. And it's a short, relatively short speech, right? Stage 8 is the conclusion, which is the climax too. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. All right, wow. And when he actually gave the speech, it was like histrionics. He would like jab himself. He would fall down on the floor and be very, very dramatic. I mean, he was a showman, all right? And there's some really good, if you look on YouTube, if you're interested, you can see some actors doing this, reading this, and it's pretty good. All right, so let's take a look at some rhetorical devices, okay? So on the AP exam, you just can't cover every single rhetorical device that you see. It's ridiculous. I tried my best here to cover a good bit of ground. I would never cover all of this because you have to read and then you have to write in like 50 minutes. I mean, it's crazy, guys. I know it's crazy, but you guys can do it. So these are some major ones that I've seen. Some are major, some are minor. Antithesis is major. Okay, he has how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are just the ones I saw easy. Different men sees different subject. Is life so dear? Peace, purchase, give me liberty, give me death. The baluster is not to the strong alone. Is it the diligent, active, brave? These are all establishes clear, contrasting relationship, freedom and slavery. We don't want to be slaves. We need to be free. Therefore, we need to do this. Right? He also uses allusions. Right? You might not know this, like suffer not yourselves to be betrayed by a kiss. If you know your Bible and you're a Christian, you know Judas betrays Jesus with a kiss in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? But if you don't know that, it's okay. You just don't mention allusion. He talks about the sirens, all right? If you don't know about the sirens, then you don't know about allusion. He talks about on the plains of Boston, about our brethren in the field. These are allusions to Lexington and Concord, and he talks about our friends will raise up friends to fight our battle for us. That's an allusion to the French. He doesn't mention the French, just like Churchill doesn't mention America in his famous "We Will Fight" speech, but it's definitely allusions, okay? All right, let's take a look at connotative language. Now, this is interesting. You could use this conveys emotion, right? Denotative language is a dictionary definition, like the definition of father and dad and daddy. They're all the same definition, but you use daddy and father or dad or pops or poppy, they're all very different, right? Depending on what kind of emotion you have. So he uses the word our brethren are already in the field. Brethren has a very deeply religious connotation. It's more like soul brothers, right? The Adams up there, they're like our soul brothers. A very worthy gentleman who have addressed the house. Really? Why does he say worthy? Are they worthy? Is this the use of, why use this adjective? Is it irony, right? He also uses understatement. He uses this frequently, like when he says, I hope I will not be thought disrespectful. He's playing on that word. I want to be respected, but I don't want to be thought disrespectful. And meanwhile, he's trashing all these arguments. So he is, in a way, being disrespectful. But he's saying, I don't want to be. All right. He uses metaphor and extended metaphor. I think in imagery. I'm gonna put in some imagery in here too. It's huge. Like chains clanging and hearing it. The gale sweeping from the north will bring to a clash of resounding arms. I think metaphor, extended metaphor, imagery, very, very important to use. This one, scenotagy or a metonymy is like, it's like I need 10 hands rather than meaning 5 men or 5 women, So we have prostrated ourselves before the throne. The throne represents Great Britain, okay? So he doesn't mention King George III. He doesn't mention, but he says things like this to say we shouldn't bow down before a throne, right? It's not even a person, it's a throne. Why would you bow down before a throne anyway? It's ridiculous. We're Americans, right? Anadolopsis is interesting. Maybe not one of the big ones you wanted to use, but it repeats, keeps things here like peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is inevitable, let it come. I repeat, sir, let it come. Right? That might be a little bit more of a epistrophe, but fight our battles for us, the battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. So repeating the word, and then again, the word right here. Very, very effective for organization and emphasis, right? So, all right, so I'm sitting in your seat. It's the AP exam, and they give you Patrick Henry's famous speech. You guys are better readers now. Hopefully you're, quicker readers. You can go through it quickly and, going through like your database of all the things that we've been going over. So this is how I would structure it. Number one, context and audience. All right, that's so important. Who is the writer? What is it? Is it a speech? Is it a letter? Is it an essay? Is it an excerpt? We need to know what it is. Put it in quotes, right? Unless it's like an excerpt from a novel, like Don Quixote, and that's different. All right, what does the author want? What does the writer want? What's the purpose of the speech? Well, the purpose of the speech is we're going to fight Great Britain because the war's already started and we need to fight, right? There's no time for like, that's what he wants. How does the writer structure the piece, right? What are a few controlling elements? These are the ones that I thought were important. Strong use of ethos and logos. You just can't say that. You need examples, right? And then you can bring up the examples of the lamp of experience and the series of rhetorical questions. When he has that many rhetorical questions, how many did I say? Like 12? I mean, he has more than that. That's huge. Antithesis is also huge, right? Give me liberty, give me death. It's antithesis. It's so obvious. Now, what order you put this in is really up to you. Extended metaphor, imagery, again, example. The more examples that you can fit in, but the stronger ones, you just don't want a litany of like 30 or 20 or even 10. Here are a few, all right? And then the climax, right? In your conclusion, he has blood in the game. He is willing to die, right? And show that example, right? You could mention the appeal to higher powers. He mentions God 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, all right? That could be another thing that you see that's interesting. Again, there's no right or wrong way of doing this. It's just going with the things that you feel are important and mentioning and writing about why it's important and how does he persuade these people to join him. I mean, that's crazy, right? It's like, okay, we're committing treason, right? We're going against our country, taking arms, and that argument has to be amazing, right? And then your conclusion. You might not have time to write a great conclusion. What I would do if you do have time, think about, okay, what's the consequence? What's the takeaway? What's the consequence of all this? Well, for this one, Virginia joined the fight, 1775 to 1781, the American Revolution. The speech turned the tide. The largest and wealthiest colony joined Massachusetts. Virginia also gave us Madison, Monroe, Jefferson, Washington. And I would probably say like Patrick Henry may not be as well known, but he opened the floodgates with this amazing speech. And sometimes all it takes is just one person with conviction and knowing how to deliver a speech and know the powers of rhetoric to turn the tide of history. So hopefully, guys, this helped you understand some rhetorical analysis of this very, very famous speech. All right, take care, guys.